holds some of the oldest continuously inhabited land on Earth, and scattered across that vast red interior are 12 ruins that refuse to fit the story we thought we knew. Some are footprints, frozen in dried lake mud for more than 20,000 years. Some are mine shafts dug so early that mainstream science spent decades refusing to believe the date on the wall. Some are paintings so fine and so strange that nobody has ever fully explained how they were made, or why the color has never faded. These are not myths, and they are not fringe theories. Every place on this list is real, documented, and standing today, and every single one of them has left professional archaeologists with more questions than answers. We are going to walk through all 12, starting with a trackway that captured a group of people mid-stride more than 20,000 years ago, and ending with a cave full of hundreds of hands that nobody agrees on the meaning of. Every one of these sites still exists and can be visited today, some easily from a car park, some only with permission from the community that continues to care for them. Stick around for number 1, because it may genuinely be the strangest ruin on this entire continent, and it only gets stranger from there. Before we get into the list, if strange history like this is your thing, hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. It genuinely helps the channel keep making these. Now, number 1. Number 1. The Willandra Lakes Trackway, New South Wales. In 2003, a park ranger walking the dry clay of an ancient lakebed in far western New South Wales noticed a line of depressions pressed into the ground. They were footprints, and they should not have survived. The Willandra Lakes region dried up more than 15,000 years ago, and the clay that holds these prints has been exposed to wind, rain, and baking sun ever since. Yet, more than 700 individual footprints have now been mapped across the site, dated by the layers of sediment above and below them to between 19,000 and 23,000 years old. What makes this ruin genuinely make no sense is not just the age, it is the story frozen inside it. One trackway shows a single man running at an estimated speed of over 20 kilometers an hour across soft mud, a pace that modern sprinters would recognize. Another set of prints appears to belong to a man missing most of one leg, hopping for well over a kilometer on the other, keeping pace with a group. Researchers have identified what looks like a hunting party moving together, children's prints mixed among adult ones, and even a moment where the group appears to pause and change direction as if reacting to something. The site is now jointly managed with the Muti Muti, Njiampa, and Parkanti peoples, whose guidance shapes how the exposed trackway is recorded and periodically reburied to slow further weathering. This is not a ruin of stone or bone. It is a few seconds of ordinary life, held in mud, for over 20,000 years, and nobody expected it to still be there to find. Number 2. Moyjil, Point Richie, Victoria. At the mouth of the Hopkins River in southwestern Victoria sits a modest headland, Ubi, that has become one of the most contested sites in Australian archaeology. Researchers studying the deposits at Moyjil found layers of shell middens, half-like stone arrangements, and fire-cracked rock, the kind of evidence you would expect from a coastal camp. The problem is the dating. Some of these deposits have returned ages that could be as old as 80,000 years, and the most conservative estimates still put certain features at over 60,000 years, tens of thousands of years earlier than the currently accepted arrival of humans in southeastern Australia. If the older dates hold up, it would rewrite the entire migration timeline for how and when people spread across the continent. A team of geologists, archaeologists, and chemists has spent years arguing over the site, some insisting the shell deposits and burnt rock are natural, the work of storms, birds, and geological accident, others pointing out that the fire-cracked stones show patterns that are difficult to explain without deliberate human heating. Independent labs have since tested the deposits using several different dating methods, and while the results vary, none of them have simply gone away, which is why the debate keeps returning to academic journals year after year. Some geologists studying the fire-affected rocks point to natural bushfire scenarios that could mimic hearth activity over thousands of years, while others argue the spatial clustering of the burnt stone is far too consistent to be accidental. What makes Moyjil belong on this list is that it is currently an open, unresolved scientific argument about whether one unremarkable-looking headland quietly holds proof that people were standing on this coastline vastly earlier than anyone currently believes. Number 3. Jinmium Rock Shelter, Northern Territory. In 1996, a team of researchers published dating results from a sandstone shelter near the Keep River in the Northern Territory that briefly became one of the biggest archaeology stories in the world. Using a method called thermoluminescence dating on buried sediment, they calculated that engraved rock fragments at the site could be over 116,000 years old, a number that would have pushed back the known human occupation of Australia by tens of thousands of years and upended the accepted migration story out of Africa entirely. Newspapers ran the story worldwide. Then other laboratories tried to replicate the results. Using different dating techniques, including optically stimulated luminescence, follow-up teams found the true age of the deposits was closer to 10,000 years, off by more than a factor of 10. The original method had likely been thrown off by the unusual mineral composition of the local sand. The episode is now used in some archaeology courses as a case study in why a single dating method, however impressive it sounds, should never be trusted without confirmation from an unrelated technique. Jinmium earns its place on this list, not because it proves an impossible date, but because it shows exactly how a real site can appear to make no sense at all, generate global headlines, and then quietly get corrected once enough scientists went back and checked the work. Number 4. The Gwion Gwion paintings. Kimberley, Western Australia. Scattered across sandstone galleries in the remote Kimberley region are thousands of rock paintings, unlike almost anything else on the continent. The figures are slender, elegant, and dressed in what looks like elaborate tasseled clothing, sashes, and headdresses, painted with a fine, confident line that has led some researchers to compare the style to figure drawing traditions found nowhere else in Aboriginal rock art. The pigment itself is the part that makes no sense. Standard dating methods struggle here because the paint is not simply mineral pigment sitting on rock. In many Gwion Gwion paintings, the colour is maintained by living colonies of black fungi and orange cyanobacteria that have colonised the original paint layer and, remarkably, appear to actively replace and refresh the pigment as it fades, effectively keeping some images visible for far longer than a static painting could survive exposed to the elements. Researchers studying the living pigment layer have compared it to a photograph that keeps quietly reprinting itself, though nobody yet fully understands the biology well enough to explain why it started or what keeps it going. Estimates for the oldest paintings range from around 12,000 to as much as 17,000 years old, based on associated wasp nest deposits. But the honest answer is that a painting technique this fine, this old, and apparently self-maintaining is not something researchers have a full explanation for yet. Number 5. Wonga Rock Art Panel, Queensland. For decades, a rock shelter on a cattle station near Barcaldine in central Queensland was known locally but barely studied. Then in 2020, a detailed survey revealed that the site contains one of the largest single rock art panels ever recorded in Australia, an engraved surface stretching close to 60 metres and featuring more than 15 large emu track engravings, some over 30 centimetres long, alongside spirals, concentric circles, and other geometric motifs. What makes Wonga genuinely puzzling is the scale and the placement. The engravings sit in a natural rock overhang, whose shape has been compared by researchers and traditional custodians to a stylized human or ancestral figure, meaning the site itself may have been chosen because the rock formation already resembled something significant, with the art added to reinforce it. Traditional custodians involved in recording the site describe it as a place people clearly return to again and again, and researchers are still working through what that repeated re-engraving across generations was meant to say. Some of the emu tracks are positioned in ways that make little practical sense unless viewed from very specific angles or times of day, and researchers have not settled on how old the oldest sections truly are. A rock art site of this scale, sitting largely undocumented until the 21st century, is itself a reminder of how much of this continent's ancient record is still waiting to be looked at properly. The station's owners now limit visits to guided tours to protect the engravings from casual damage. Number 6. Preminghana, Mount Cameron West, Tasmania. On the northwest coast of Tasmania, a low sandstone platform holds one of the most significant rock art sites in the country. A series of large engraved circles, spirals, and track-like markings pecked directly into a rock shelf that sits exposed to salt spray and coastal weather. What sets Preminghana apart is the sheer size and precision of some of the concentric circle designs, some over half a metre across, cut with a regularity that is difficult to achieve freehand on an open surface with no obvious guide marks. The site was considered significant enough that a formal cast was made of the engravings in the 1930s before natural erosion could claim them, and that cast is now held far from the coastline it came from, while the originals continue to slowly wear down in the salt air. Traditional owners have long identified the site as deeply significant ceremonial ground. Researchers admit that without a reliable way to date the engravings directly, nobody can say with confidence whether the oldest circles were cut soon after the island's isolation began, or many thousands of years later. What makes no sense here is simple. A coastal community, isolated on an island for over 10,000 years, after rising seas cut Tasmania off from the mainland, produced geometric engravings this large and this precise, on a rock shelf that has been trying to erase them the entire time, and largely failing. Quick break before we keep going. If you want to see the rest of this list, plus more strange corners of Australian history, subscribing costs nothing, and it genuinely helps this channel keep digging these up. Number 7. Chambers Gorge, South Australia. Deep in the Flinders Ranges, a narrow gorge cutting through ancient folded rock holds one of the densest concentrations of Aboriginal rock engravings anywhere in South Australia. Thousands of individual petroglyphs cover the gorge walls, circles, animal tracks, and geometric patterns pecked into the dark desert varnish that coats the sandstone. The gorge itself sits along what appears to have been a long-distance travel route through otherwise difficult terrain, and researchers have noted that the density and placement of engravings increases sharply at points where the gorge narrows, or where natural rock formations create unusual acoustic effects, sound bouncing, and carrying in ways that do not happen in the open desert around it. Acoustic testing by visiting researchers has recorded distinct echo effects at several of the densest engraving clusters, and while nobody claims it was deliberate, the correlation has been flagged for further study more than once. As with most open-air engraving sites in Australia, there is no reliable way to directly date the individual markings, since the peckwork removes rock rather than adding datable material. What makes Chambers Gorge worth including is the scale of concentrated effort represented on these walls, generation after generation, choosing this exact narrow stretch of stone in a landscape with no shortage of other rock to choose from. Number 8. Cuddie Springs, New South Wales. In the semi-arid plains of northwestern New South Wales, a claypan called Cuddie Springs became the centre of one of Australian archaeology's longest-running disputes. Excavations here uncovered stone tools lying in the same sediment layers as the bones of extinct Australian megafauna, giant flightless birds, enormous wombat relatives, and other Ice Age animals that were believed to have died out roughly 45,000 years ago, not long after humans first arrived on the continent. The stone tools at Cuddie Springs appeared to date to a much later period, with some researchers arguing for coexistence between humans and megafauna as recently as 30,000 years ago, thousands of years after the animals were supposed to be extinct everywhere else. If correct, it would directly challenge the leading theory that rapid human hunting drove Australia's giant animals to extinction shortly after people arrived. Critics of the site argue the layers were disturbed over time, mixing older bones with younger tools through natural processes like flooding and animal burrowing. A later reanalysis, using improved dating techniques, narrowed the range somewhat, but still left both camps able to defend their position, leaving the central debate sitting unresolved in a single layer of dirt. Some of the disputed layers have even produced burnt eggshell fragments believed to come from the giant flightless Genyornis, adding yet another contested data point to a site that keeps generating new questions every time somebody digs a new test pit. Cuddie Springs makes this list because the physical evidence, sitting in the ground exactly as found, genuinely contradicts the textbook timeline, and nobody has definitively explained why. Number 9. Wilgie Mia Ochre Mine, Western Australia. In the Weld Range of central Western Australia sits what is recognised as one of the oldest continuously used mines anywhere on Earth. Wilgie Mia is not a shallow scrape at the surface. It is a genuine underground mining operation, with shafts, galleries, and tunnels cut directly into a hillside to extract deposits of vivid red and yellow ochre used in ceremony and trade across enormous distances of the continent. Excavation and dating work at the site has produced evidence of mining activity stretching back around 30 to 40,000 years, with some estimates suggesting activity continued in an unbroken tradition until well into the 20th century, making it one of the longest-running mining operations by any human culture in recorded history. What makes Wilgie Mia genuinely hard to reconcile with the usual story of ancient technology is the scale of engineering involved. Miners removed enormous quantities of rock using fire setting and stone tools, created supported underground chambers, and moved ochre in volumes, suggesting organized, sustained labor rather than occasional visits, all without metal tools. The mine remains registered as significant Aboriginal heritage under Western Australian law, and researchers note the sheer volume of rock removed entirely by hand represents a scale of sustained labor, rarely acknowledged in general accounts of ancient technology, in a mine that predates the pyramids of Egypt by tens of thousands of years. Number 10. The main art gallery, Carnarvon Gorge, Queensland. Carved into a sandstone wall inside a remote gorge in central Queensland's Carnarvon National Park is a rock art gallery stretching more than 60 metres, one continuous surface covered in stencils, engravings, and freehand paintings layered over what researchers believe represents thousands of years of repeated use by generations of artists. The gallery includes hundreds of hand stencils, boomerang and weapon outlines, and engraved animal tracks, some positioned high enough on the rock face that researchers have puzzled over how the artists reached them without obvious footholds or platforms. What makes this site difficult to fully explain is the density and the layering. Images stenciled directly over older images, in a pattern that suggests the location itself carried meaning across an enormous span of time rather than any single generation simply choosing a convenient blank wall. Rangers and researchers alike note the panel keeps revealing new detail under different lighting, and after careful cleaning work, meaning the full extent of what is layered onto that one wall may still not be fully documented. Sandstone erosion, water seepage, and the porous nature of the rock make reliable, direct dating of most individual images essentially impossible, so the true age of the oldest visible images on that wall remains, honestly, unknown, layered under everything that came after it. Number 11. Ewaninga Rock Carvings, Northern Territory. South of Alice Springs, a dry clay pan surrounded by low sandstone outcrops holds hundreds of petroglyphs cut into the rock, circles, lines, animal tracks, and abstract geometric patterns that researchers group under a broad and very old engraving tradition found in strikingly similar form at sites separated by enormous distances across the entire continent. At Ewaninga, the engravings surround what was once a reliable waterhole in an otherwise dry landscape, and the site was clearly significant for a very long time. The genuinely puzzling part is how much of the meaning has been lost, even to knowledge holders today, not because nobody cared, but because the specific ceremonial and narrative context for many individual engravings was tied to systems of oral transmission that were disrupted over the past 2 centuries. Elders and researchers working together on interpretation projects have confidently identified some individual motifs while openly acknowledging that others remain genuinely unexplained, an honest admission in a field that does not always resist the urge to guess. Dating estimates broadly range from a few thousand years to potentially tens of thousands, based on comparative weathering studies rather than direct measurement, which means a site sitting in plain view, easily reached by road today, still keeps most of its actual story to itself. Conservation staff have also noted that some engravings appear to have been recut by later visitors, long after the originals were made, hinting the clay pan may record an ongoing conversation across generations rather than a single moment. Number 12. Mulka's Cave, Western Australia. Near the granite outcrop known as Wave Rock, in the Western Australian wheatbelt, sits a modest-looking cave that holds one of the largest known concentrations of hand stencils in the country. More than 450 individual hand stencils and prints cover the walls and ceiling, and researchers have noted a strange consistency running through them. An overwhelming majority are right hands, far more than would be expected from random or even deliberate two-handed use, a pattern that has never been fully explained. Local tradition attached to the site tells of Mulka, a man born in violation of tribal law who grew up with crossed eyes and unusual strength, said to have used the cave as a base and to have taken children from surrounding groups before eventually being pursued and killed by his own community, an account with clear, moral and cautionary weight passed down through generations. Some researchers propose the right-hand bias reflects a ceremonial requirement tied to the site's cautionary story, while others note similar patterns at unrelated sites worldwide, leaving the simplest explanation still out of reach. Archaeologically, the density of hands and the layering of stencils built up over a long span of use have made Mulka's cave a genuine subject of ongoing study, with no consensus yet on why one modest granite cave in the wheat belt became the site of such an extraordinary, one-sided ritual of marking hands on stone. 12 ruins, 6 states and territories, and not one clean answer among them. Footprints that outran a modern sprinter, a mine older than the pyramids, paintings that seem to repair themselves, and a headland that might quietly rewrite the whole timeline of who was standing on this continent first. That is the honest state of Australian archaeology right now. Not a settled textbook, but an active, ongoing argument happening in real journals, real excavations, and real conversations with the traditional custodians who never stopped knowing these places mattered. If one of these 12 genuinely surprised you, or you want 12 more next time, let me know in the comments and tell me where you are watching from. Thanks for sticking around for the whole list. See you in the next one.